Today, we're switching things up and talking about some prospects that have been called up over the last month and seeing how they've been doing. And then we also got 5 players that you need to stash on your IL on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Wane. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, make sure you hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things, make sure you're subscribed, and also, if you can, please make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review. Would truly go a long way and help grow the podcast. And guys, if you want a little bit more than we offer in these 30-minute episodes, please make sure you give us a chance on the Insider's Track. Through the Insider's Track, you're going to get those instant prospect qualifications when those big name prospects get called up. And we also rank our waiver wire guys for you, and also just offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes once again. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And all right, guys, you know what? We're trying something a little bit different here on the episode today. Normally, we're giving you prospects to stash on your, on your bench or your NA spots in leagues where it's applicable. We've run through so many prospects already, and the names are getting a little bit thinner at the moment. So we've decided to switch it up, but we want to get your feedback. Please sound off in the comments. Let us know if you like what we're doing today. We've got 5 prospects that have been called up over the last month or so. We're going to check in on them and see how they've been doing, and then we always, as always, we've got 5 guys that you need to stash on your IL, and these names are names you're not going to want to miss. And all right, Matt, so we're checking in on 5 prospects. Dealer's choice, my brother. Where are we going first?
All right, no doubt. And just a little highlight, too. So we're either going to be talking about what our expectations are for the rest of the season with these guys, since we've already covered them, and they're already up, and whether we're holding them if they're underperforming or not, and not have hit right away. And we're going to start off with Jacob Mizarowski, a guy that's just not even just, hit the ground, started running. It was more like hit the ground, hopped in a Corvette Z06, slammed on the gas pedal, and just like, okay, cool. I'm just going to be awesome. Like when you read the rookie report on what this dude had in the tank in terms of pitching, right? What he had in terms of that, right? Like, so like they do grading based off of pitching and quality and things like that. So his fastball is 70 out of 70, which it's hitting 99 miles per hour at an average velocity speed. His curveball is a 60 out of 60, and that thing does move like a monster. Even his cutter, a 50 out of 55. The dude's got command out the wazoo. Then you look at the results on the mound. His 4-seam fastball literally has a batting average of .045. Bunkers. His slider has a batting average of 118. His curveball is unhittable. Same with his changeup. He hasn't even thrown the cutter yet, but he's putting guys away at a ridiculous rate. His changeup is his biggest put away pitch, and it's absolutely filthy. I'm super impressed with this kid overall. He's doing everything right. Everything is looking just like we expected. He's literally getting guys to chase at an incredible rate, creating whiffs, striking out guys 34.5% of the time, producing ground balls, not as much as I'd like, but enough where I say, okay, I'm not worried or concerned. Really suppressing the hard hit percentage, barreling, all the wonderful stuff you'd expect from this kid. Now, what's my expectation for this kid moving forward? Well, before I get carried away, he's only pitched about 16 innings. So I want to see what the league does and how they adjust. It's I don't think this kid is going to be a Paul Skeens that comes into the league and just is this like I'm him kind of type amazing player, right? Where I'm going to have a rookie card that's worth $5 million and you're going to go sit with my hot girlfriend. Like, no, it's more of like, I think the league is going to figure him out at some point and figure out his tells. And I want to see how he adjusts. The fact that he hasn't thrown the cutter yet is impressive. The fact that his curveball is already dominant. His fastball is, hitting 99 miles an hour on an average. These are all positive signs that he's going to be able to power through the league adjustment. So what my expectation for him is probably a mid-threes ERA with well over a K per nine and a high whip. I think at some point the command kind of goes and kind of toilets a little bit, which is fine because he's a rookie. But this kid is going to be insanely interesting. The best comp I got for him, I'm seriously saying it, Spencer Schwallenbach. He's got really good stuff, great arsenal, and he just has all that potential, which I think actually the fastball is so filthy and fast. I think it'd be even a little bit better if everything hits.
Matt, I thought we were going to be on the same page with the comp, and I was going to be very upset because you stole it from me. But I think I have a little bit better of a comp. I think he's got a lot of Blake Snell in him. It's really the control that is, the major problem. Even so far, you look at the whip and you might be fooled. The 0.62 whip so far from Mizarowski, so far with the Brewers and the Bigs, but it's 7 walks. He's only given up 3 hits. And 7 walks in 16 innings is a lot more than you like to see, if I'm being honest with you. And that's always been Mizarowski's problem, has been the control. He leaves too many guys on base, and just walks too many guys in general. And that's what Blake Snell's been notorious throughout his whole career. He's been able to figure it out, and been able to lock in for long stretches at times. And I think we'll see the same for, the young Mizarowski throughout his career, only 23 years old. And he's a big dude. He's 6'7", 200 pounds, has a good frame on him, not super frail. Would still love to see him put on another 10, 15 pounds of muscle. But you know what? Sometimes that doesn't happen. High upside here for Mizarowski. I'll say this, though. If you play in a redraft league, not keeper or dynasty, because keeper or dynasty, Mizarowski, high upside here. If you play in a redraft league, there might not be a better time to trade a guy like Jacob Mizarowski. The ERA is not going to get lower than it is at this point. Big strikeouts, yeah, you can go out there and strike out 10 anytime. But you know what? Just the hype and the level that he's at, 82% owned on Yahoo, tells me enough. Everyone is starting to believe. 3 monster starts, great minor league track record. He was the number 68 prospect in all of baseball before he got called up. Had a monster game in the Futures game a few years ago. I believe he struck out Roman Anthony and some other big name prospects. Just a lot of name value right now. So if I own Mizarowski in a redraft league, I'm looking to move him for top 30 starter, if you can get that in return, top 35 starter, I think that makes a lot of sense. So, if you need a bat, go out there, get you a top 35 bat, makes a lot of sense. And if you could pull off something like that, maybe you got to throw in a closer or something else to get the deal done. I'm doing that all day long. But that's enough on Mizarowski. But he's been fantastic. So he did deserve the convo. Let's move on to the next player here. It's Marcelo Mayer of those Boston Red Sox. And listen, it hasn't been so sweet over there in Boston of late, man. They send down Campbell for underperforming for a few months there. Roman Anthony, who we talked about the other day, off to a slow start. And Marcelo Mayer, first 27 games here, 208 batting average, 12 runs, 4 homers, 7 RBIs. And it's been a tough go. He hasn't been playing every day. Had that big 2-homer game on June 11th. Other than that, Mayer has not really done much of anything. Down to 15% owned on Yahoo. I'll say this, if you haven't dropped him already, I think it's looking like time to move on, man. Mayer had a great minor league track record. If you're in a AL only, I'll say this, if you're in an AL only, we're still holding deep 15, still holding. Anything shallower than that, I feel safe moving on for a hot hand or something of the sort. Mayer just hasn't shown it yet, and I don't think he has the upside of, like a Kurtz or, a Caglioni, other names we're going to talk about later, so make sure you stick around for those. The underlying stuff, the exit velocity looks good, hard hit rate, bat speed, but literally everything else is in the gutter. Underlying stuff for batting average doesn't look good. Sprint speed, way below average. Not really squaring anything up, whiffing too much, chasing a lot. The big league pitching has looked like it's gotten the best of Mayer. And what we've seen with Campbell is, hey, listen, Red Sox are not afraid to send their guys back down and let them figure it out. So I'm in the sense in a redraft league, I'm moving on. You're obviously holding dynasty leagues. Shallow keepers, though, even if you keep half your roster, I'm probably still moving on from a guy like Mayer at this point. I don't see it clicking right now. I think he's another guy that gets sent back down, and then him and Campbell are back down there, both trying to fight their way back up. Who's to say, who comes up next? And then there's even other players down in that Boston system. Franklin Arias, the middle infielder, young stud, who's been killing it in the minors this year. So they do have other options. But before I let Matt jump back in and give his take on Marcelo Mayer, and then we talked about Caglioni, Kurtz, and we got guys that you need to stash on your IL coming up next.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Every weekend. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. I do, all the time. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. Look, when I first started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I spent on food delivery, which it hasn't changed, but I'm aware that I have a problem and it isn't going to change. Well, my favorite part is managing money with my wife, right? It actually makes things a little bit smoother. I hate having to be the bad guy and be like, yo, can you not order that thing off Amazon this week? You spent enough money. And she's like, we got it. No, go look at Monarch Money. You spent too much money this month on Amazon. Amazon, $200. Done. So use the code locked on MLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and use the code locked on MLB for half off your first year. Hey, look, we mentioned it at the top. Now we're mentioning it here. If you want a little bit more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, look, we can only do so much. We're limited, right? But we offer a whole plethora of stuff. Waiver wire rankings, key highlighted stats that we think you should be paying attention to from the episode, prospect call-ups. If you were a part of it, you probably got to the prospects before the rest of your league. And if you have questions on trades or anything of the sort, Dom and I will get back to you in the first 24 hours. So check us out. Links in the description below. It's called the Insider Tracking. You don't want to miss out. But all right, let's get back into it. So Dom, well said on Mayer. I'm not really I was never a big Mayer guy. He just has a really good baseball player written all over him, along with hey, I could have a really good 2020 guy. That's really what he is. So for redraft leagues, 100%, he's a flat out drop the second he didn't perform. Wasn't somebody that I held to a high esteem that's going to be a serious fantasy impactor. In dynasties and keeper, dynasties, you're keeping him. Keeper leagues, I'm not even paying attention. If you're not keeping your whole team, Marcelo Mayer makes no sense to even worry about him. Drop him and see if when he gets called back up, that's when you kind of decide whether you want to add him or not. But let's move on. Let's talk about the Caglioni, Mr. Godfather himself. All right. It is super long, but I have to do it every time. So the Cags, man, so he's obviously off to a tough start. And that's fine. It's to be expected. Not everybody comes up and says yo, I am just as good as I am in the minors. Look, even going from AA and AAA up to the bigs is I don't know, saying, okay, I'm going to the Rockwall and Climb Club at the Rockwall, what do you call it? Organization around the corner to I'm going to go climb Everest. It's just two different aspects of it. So with Caglioni, I think he's really just getting a taste of what real pitching looks like. But there is some upsides to it. He had a double dong day at some point this season, and you see little traces of what he did in the minors. So I'm going to hold longer. I'm going to be patient because Kurtz didn't hit right away, and now look at Kurtz. You know, it's one of those things, and he's the reason why I compare him and Kurtz the most is you look at what Kurtz's profile and Caglioni's profile, and they're pretty much the same. Hard hitting guys that are just going to crank that ball out the stadium pretty much every single time. And Caglioni definitely has that in him. That's why his prospect rating was so heavy in that. 45 out of 70 game power, 70 out of 80 raw power, plus the kid has speed. The only thing I would like to see him do more of is if you're going to not be successful with the hitting the ball, at least have better plate discipline. But I feel like he's trying to overcompensate so much at the struggle level that he just needs to chase a little bit more to try and break and get a slump buster. So I'm being patient for now. He's still like this, a week or two after the All-Star break. That's when the drop of leg is hot. If the Kansas City Royals don't already say, okay, you're not coming back up. So Caglioni, patience for now.
Yeah, man. He's Cags is interesting for me. Like you said, the plate discipline's what's killing me. 4 walks to 20 strikeouts so far through 23 games played. It's almost a strikeout per game. The 2 home run game is the only really big game of note. Well, he also had a 4-for-4 game, so let me not say that. But if you take the 4-for-4 game and the 2 home run game out of there, it's one RBI. Uh, 1 run and no homers and a 130 batting average. He's hurting. The kid's hurting right now. I think before we know it, the Royals are going to turn around and Cags is going to go back down for a little bit. It was a very aggressive promotion to begin with for Cags, who is still, very young at 22 years old, but the big body, 6'5", 250, the big time power is all there. It's all there. I'd prefer, hey, listen, give him another month. If he's still struggling at that time under the Mendoza line, hasn't shown much more pop, then maybe it's the time for the Royals to send it back down, and us as the fantasy baseball community, hey, listen, we move on as well. If you play in a 10-man league or shallower, and there's a hot commodity out there, that you feel you need to have on the waiver wire, yeah, I wouldn't be mad if you dropped Caglioni for him in that kind of format. But 12s and deeper, even a shallow 12, I'm holding on. There's a lot of power in that bat, good lineup, and Caglioni's proved in the minors that he can hit with the best of them. I'll say this though, and it's kind of the opposite of what a lot of other fantasy baseball guys and even real baseball guys have said. I see a lot of Adam Dunn and Caglione, man. I've watched a lot of his games. I've seen a lot of his ABs, man. Just that big body. I'm telling you, I think this is a 40-plus home run bat with like a 240 batting average and a lot of RBIs, which I still think is going to be wonderful for fantasy baseball. But listen, it comes with the ebbs and flows, right? But let's move on to somebody who's been a bit more successful so far in the bigs. Let's talk about Nick Kurtz. 46 games for Kurtz with the Athletics in the bigs this year, 164 at-bats, 22 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 12 homers, 32 RBIs, 16 walks to 58 strikeouts, and a 256 batting average. And Kurtz has been on the upswing. I love it. You love to see, him come in. And listen, he was somebody, who was struggling as well. Had to adapt back to what the league was doing to him. And listen, he's been, great. Had a 3-for-3 game on June 25th with 3 RBIs and a homer. Hit another homer with 2 runs and 3 RBIs on the 28th of June. So, he's been great. Had a nice little hit streak going, which he can still continue tonight at the top of the 6th. Maybe gets another AB or 2 in there. So maybe he can continue that hit streak and get it up to 7 games. And he's been on fire, man. The kid's got a lot of pop. Not really going to steal too many bags, but he's been hitting third, clean up in this Athletics lineup. Of late shows the trust they have in the Kurtz. So listen, you're going to get a lot of power. The RBIs are going to be fantastic. Batting average, listen, he can hit 260, 270, I think, the rest of the way. So I think he could be a plus in the batting average department. If Kurtz is still out there in your league, he's only 56% owned on Yahoo. Chances still out there. I'm going to go out there and snag him. I believe in him. You don't always see the young prospects translate like this. So when they do, you want to just go out there and make sure they're owned in all of your fantasy leagues like Nick Kurtz, because listen, man, the kid's going to be good.
Yeah, no, I'm deeply impressed with the kid, and quite honestly, I mean, you look at his minor league track record and his college track record. The dude did have good plate discipline, so I think things only go up from here. He's actually going to be a force. I'm truly impressed with the fact that he struggled to come up when he came up, dealt with some injuries, and then I think between injury and then just saying, okay, I got this. I'm going to crank it down and just be a beast and hit 12 home runs in a month and a half. Just is really impressive to me, to that full force 180 turnaround. This kid's just going to be a amazing talent for next year. I'm incredibly impressed. Before we move on and we continue with our last prospects and then start going into who you need to stash out of the big league players, we got a little sponsor for you, but I'll give you a little preview. What to do with Zevi Matthews? Is he actually worth holding on to? Brady House Is it even worth holding on to? So on and so forth. There's so many names that you're going to have questions about coming up next.
And all right, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every moment even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach, right? Come on, man. You got to stay on top of that. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get 150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started right now.
All right, now we're back, and Dom's a little muted, and it's fine. I got this. I'm going to be talking about Brady House, plays for the Washington Nationals, and I'm not impressed, but I haven't been impressed with him like since 2023. Let's put it that way. 24 was kind of like a tossy termsy kind of season, and truly disappointed the performance in total in 24. Whereas in 23, he truly impressed me. Now, negative regression happens, especially with promotions and things like that. But he was successful in Double A where he wasn't in 24. And that's why it hampered him, because he should have been up last year towards the end of the year, but the struggles kept him down. Now, this year, he did manage to bounce back in AAA, but AAA, if you're familiar with any kind of minor league, structure of where pitchers kind of go, most good pitchers don't generally make it to AAA. So I don't know how much I really am buying into the Brady Houses of the world. I also just am not buying into these numbers. So him being called up and performing the way he is, where he hasn't had a single home run yet, only has five ribs, 2 stolen bases, batting 231. I don't have too many high expectations for the kid, in all honesty. Maybe I'm being a little rough, but the average exit velocity is all the way in the toilet. He just has a really good launch angle. But me personally, the way I'm approaching Brady Houses in redraft leagues, he's an absolute drop. Keeper leagues, he's an absolute drop. And in dynasty leagues, he's the only place I'm really holding on to him, because I don't foresee value and impact in 2025. And I think at best, he's might be maybe a top 150 player in the future, but definitely not even close this year. So he's a drop for me.
Matt, fairly well said there. House has a little bit of pop. 13 home runs in 65 games in the minors this year was cool with the 304 batting average. Still a little bit early to say. He's got 13 games under the belt so far. Hasn't, as you said, hasn't really shown off any pop yet. 3 doubles, nice. Still a little bit more time in your 10s and shallower. You probably shouldn't have been picked up to begin with. But your super deep 12s. Where you have like corner infielder, you may have been struggling. Of course, your N onlys and 15s. I'm still going to hold on there and kind of just see if Brady House can figure out that power, situation. And because he always had a nice mix of power and batting average, kind of almost like a la like an Austin Riley or a guy like that. And the underlying stuff only looks good for a few categories for, House. One of them's batting average, expected batting average of 304. Like to see that. So I think we give him at least another week, kind of see where, the things goes. Maybe this week he starts showing off a little bit of power for us. But like I said, no shallow leagues. Guys shouldn't have been owned anyway. Let's see if we can run through a few of these stashes for you guys, guys that you need to have on your IL. Let's move on to Zevi Matthews. Actually first up here of the IL guys. Interesting young prospect. I had a lot of mixed results as he, came back up this year. 4 starts, 5.21 ERA, 1.47 WHIP, 19 innings, 25 strikeouts. Listen, it was really just the first one against Milwaukee where he went 3 innings. I think that's about 4 or 5 runs he gave up and did really bad. Started to find his rhythm after that. Had a big game against Seattle. With the 7 strikeouts, 7 innings, 4 earned runs. Wasn't super impressive, but was starting to find his footing before he got hurt. Shoulder issue. Through a 20-pitch bullpen session, Matthews did on Sunday. First time throwing a bullpen session since he landed on the IL with that shoulder strain on June 8th. I think he's going to, another bullpen session, go out there, 3 rehab starts. Maybe we see him, after the All-Star break is my guess. But Zevi Matthews is a kid, high upside, can go out there, strike guys out. The Twins organization has been pretty decent with starting pitching over the years. 11% owned on Yahoo. If you're dying for some starting pitching, he's not a bad option. Like I said, he has shown some results here in the bigs, not overall, but we did see a couple of things here and there from Zevi. So not my favorite stash, but listen, is he a guy who can come up and make an impact in the second half after the All-Star break? It could definitely happen. With pitchers, all it takes is them to get that, one mechanic or one thing that was off, back in the right spot, and it makes a world of a difference. So Zevi Matthews, not my favorite guy of the episode, but somebody that, in deeper formats, I am interested in stashing.
For time, I'm going to move on, but I agree with what you said. Just don't have too much high expectations because we've seen the highs and the lows of Zevi Matthews. So move on. Let's talk about Ivan Herrera, catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. So look, this is real simple for me. Grade 2 strain. They said if he played through it, which he was trying to, could end up being a season-ending injury. Timeline's about 2 to 6 weeks, which I foresee being longer in all honesty. So yes, I am stashing him because to get that bump of the way Ivan Herrera's performed this year, truly impressed. Great call this year, Tom. Just unfortunately that he's just been taking a page out of Alberto Montesi's, playbook. So for me, Herrera is still a stash, and I'm just going to try and ride the wave and stream until I can get him back in my lineup. As long as he's healthy in September, that's all I really care about. So keep him, stash him. He's worth it.
Very well said, man. It's been almost about 2 weeks here that Herrera's already been out. So, we should have some sort of an update coming here of soon, but he's down to 54% owned on Yahoo. I know catcher has actually been in a better position than we thought this year, but Ivan Herrera hitting 320 with 8 homers, 36 RBIs in 42 games has been a breakout at the catcher position this year when healthy. So definitely a stash for me where you are looking to grab a catcher who could potentially help you down the line and in the playoffs. Let's move into some starting pitching here. Let's talk about Yu Darvish. Now, listen, Darvish is getting older. He's not going to be that ace in your rotation anymore. But you know what? He does have some upside in a world where, hey, listen, starting pitching, you could always take another one. 34% owned for Darvish at the moment. He's going to throw another simulated game. Actually, he's supposed to have thrown one here on Tuesday as a recording. Don't see any updates on that. He threw one last week, 51 pitches. He should be headed out on a rehab assignment soon, and kind of same thing as Zevi. Kind of see Darvish back right around after the All-Star break, and could be a nice little boost, especially in like an NL-only format where there's like nothing out there on the waiver wire. Darvish could be useful in a pinch here and there.
No. I mean, if I can get even 3/4 of what we got out of him last year, especially coming off the waiver wires, it's better than most pickups for the rest of the year. So, I mean, Darvish is definitely worth the stash. He's an upgrade to half your rotation at this point, especially in the deeper leagues. So great take, Tom. I'm going to move on for time. Dylan Cruz, outfielder for the Washington. I was going to say Commanders. I got football on the brain. Washington Nationals, and he's been out with an injury for a little bit now, dealing with an oblique injury, which does normally keep you out for quite some time. So right now he's sitting about 85 to 90% better, ramping up pretty fast, but he's definitely not 100% right now. So a couple more weeks, I would say, after All-Star break is when we're expected to see him. If he's out there in your league, I'm going to stash him. He definitely needs to be. I think the upside of the prospect pedigree, him being a top 5 prospect coming into the year, and just the way he's performed in the minors throughout his minor league career, just definitely worth it. I personally think that he might have been dealing with this longer than we expected, and he's just been trying to play through it. I like the kid. Things point in the right direction with him for certain things. Average exit velocity still sitting 90 miles an hour, barreled 14.5% of the time. Hard contact was 40% of the time. And even his expected batted average was actually a 258 where he was batting 196. So there is definitely some stuff left on the table. Plus the kid's fast as could be. Dylan Cruz is somebody that I feel could be a second half MVP, especially with the way that he's, could come on and come back from the IL.
I'll say this: I'm not as big of a Cruz guy as you are, Matt. But there are better days ahead. I will say that there's definitely better days ahead here for Dylan Cruz. Worst case scenario, you need a guy that's going to steal you some bags. Dylan Cruz will definitely do that in the second half if he's healthy. So with that 95th percentile sprint speed, at minimum, if I need steals, I'm going to stash Cruz there. But great take, Matt. Let me see if I can sneak this last guy in. Reese Olson, a little bit higher, owned than we like to talk about, but he's almost back. So, if he's out there, I'd like to snag him. He's 61% owned on Yahoo, and the most recent update is Olson struck out 5, allowed 2 earned runs, 3 hits, 1 walk across 4 innings on last Wednesday. That was in AAA. Olson this weekend to complete a bullpen session if checks out early next week. So you're talking Tuesday or Wednesday in Washington. Hey, listen, Washington's been a decent matchup. You get past James Wood and CJ Abrams, and you're pretty much okay over there. So you know what? If he gets Tuesday, it might be a 2-start week next week for Olson. 61% owned on Yahoo. I know it's a little bit higher owned than we like to talk about, but that still leaves about 49% of the leagues where you can snag a guy like Reese Olson, who through 9 starts had 4 wins, a 2.96 ERA, a 117 whip, 48 innings pitched, and 51 strikeouts on this year. Got Scooble and Flaherty mentoring him over there. Hey, listen, some upside here with the young kid.
Well said, Dom. And honestly, I don't have much to add other than I don't have too much of a high expectation for him other than the fact that he's going to be a solid start. So, Reese Olson, great stash. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share the show because we love to bring it to you each and every week. And if you want a little bit more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, become a member of the Insider Track. You get a free 2 weeks for checking it out. So check it out. And when you're done, check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB, who's almost as good as us, but he actually covers real baseball versus fantasy. So without further ado, guys, have a great rest of your day. Peace out.
So